order, if you choose rather, please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Amen. And now, would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Goodwin, would you please do a roll call vote? Establish a quorum.
Earl Hoover.
Here.
Craig Kelly.
Here.
Jill Gaines.
Susan's in round.
Deanna Ballman. Here. Amy Cosby. Here.
Then we have a quorum. You have before you tonight's agenda. We have a motion to adopt the agenda. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The agenda is adopted. Now we will have recognition time, Jason.
All right. Thank you. We'll call Coach Adam Mosley to the podium. As you can see on the screen here, he's a head coach for the Hoover Bucks baseball, the reigning 7A state champions. They prevailed against Auburn High School recently, and he's going to tell us just a quick few tidbits about that game.
Okay, we've got several players with us. If you want to, I guess, come up here, Jason will tell you where to go. Okay, first of all, thanks for having us. Very thankful to the board for your, and everybody else for our support this year. Some of these guys these are our seniors from last year, most of them. The others from this team from last year are currently at team camp right now, getting ready for next year. So this senior class was a fantastic senior class for us. They're very glad to not be at team camp right now because they're all sweating and really hurting right now. Every one of these guys is going to go to college. Several of them are going to play baseball in college. We have two All-State players with us. Brock Guffey was named the Pitcher of the Year for the state of Alabama in 7A, and Brandon Axley was an All-State outfielder. Garrett Farquhar was an honorable mention, All-State shortstop. We're very proud of them, proud of this group. It's a special group. Got a great administration that supported us along the way. Coach Urban is here as well. He likes to think that the vast majority of this is a result of all his efforts, and so I agree. So he made all the lineups, and so but we're very thankful for our administration and for all the support of the Hoover community for the entire season. So it was a great year for every one of us.
All right, guys, thank you. Also, continuing the tradition of recognizing championships, we have Coach Devin Hind, if you would come to the front and tell us about the recent accolades with track and field.
Well, for the 6th year in a row, our girls won the state championship outdoors, and for the 3rd time in the last 4 years, our boys won the outdoor state championship. And it's about the 4th time we have won both boys and girls. We're the only school who's ever done that in 6 or 7A in the same year. Our boys, for the 15th year in a row, have been either 1st or 2nd in the state, and so that's quite an accomplishment. We had 9 kids that signed to go to college and continue their running career. We've got 1 going to Oklahoma, South Carolina, 2 at South Alabama, Auburn, and I don't remember the others off the top of my head, but quite a successful year, and having 9 signed to run is 2 shy of our record of 11. So very successful year, and we appreciate our administration also, very supportive. Thank you.
And that's the image I chose to depict our next group, our retirees. So each year we try to honor those who have retired in the contracted school year, which of course, as you know, we just wrapped up the 2016-2017 school year. These are people who had 25 or more years of service in the state retirement system. So we have a total of 29 people from Hoover City Schools that fit that criteria. 20 certified, 9 non-certified, for a total of 797 years combined experience. So that's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. If you're here, if you're among that group, would you come to the front? And we're going to take a group photo. We're going to have our assistant, Christy Williams, pass out a memento, a token of our appreciation from the school system to you. And while Christy is coming over here to gather our mementos, if we'll start with Beverly, just tell us your name, your school, and your position, and how many years.
Whew, I'm retired now, I can't remember all that. Using my brain cells. I'm Beverly Williamson. I am retiring from Hoover High School. I've been there for 5 years, and I was the principal secretary and ruler of the world there. And I have a total of 28 years, 27 physical years with an additional year of sick leave, so I'll retire with 28 years.
I'm Susan King, Spain Park High School. I was at Spain Park since they laid the first brick pretty much, and I was there 16 years, and then I was at Benjamin Russell High School for 9 years, and I taught English and German for 25 years.
I'm Karen Pfeiffer, and I have 27 years in Alabama retirement system. 22 of those have been at Trace Crossings Elementary, and I've taught everything K through 4. So they just wherever they needed to plug a body, that's where I went that year. So.
And I'm Susan Murphy, 27 years. Started out in physical education. I was in Selma for just a little bit, and Scottsboro City, where I became a school counselor. And then I eventually was in Texas for a little bit, then in Florence, Alabama. I was at Forest Hills, but I've had 12 years at Rocky Ridge Elementary in Hoover City, and I just feel blessed. Love it, Hoover, so thank you so much.
I'm Debbie Blaylock. I am from Rocky Ridge. I spent all 28 years of my career at Rocky Ridge. I started out for a year as a Title I, and then moved into a second grade teaching job and finished up as the literacy coach there. Hoover City Schools has been a blessing to my life, and it has enriched it in more ways than I can imagine. Thank you.
Well, I'm Pam Allen, and I drove a school bus. 25 years, mostly elementary school. I did a little bit of middle school, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And that's all.
I'm Kathy Wheaton. I came with the beginning of the school system at Berry High School, went to Hoover for a year, and then to Berry Middle for 18 years and finished up at Greystone Elementary. So I was going to stay in Alabama for 5 years, and 28 years later I'm still
I'm Louise White. I started out at Trace Crossings Elementary, then went to South Shades Crest, and then wound up here at the central office, where I was administrative assistant to the superintendent.
I'm Kathy Tyson, and I had 1 year in Mississippi as Title I, and then the remainder of my 28 years have been at Gwen Elementary and Green Valley. I started at Green Valley teaching 3rd grade for 3 years, and when Trace Crossing opened up, it just kind of took a lot of us to a new adventure, and I chose to go to Gwen, and it was the best decision ever.
Wonderful. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
Many of them have spouses with them. Could we get you to introduce your spouse or significant other? Louise, you start.
This is my husband, Randall White.
Nice to meet you all. I'm glad she's at home with me now.
And this is my husband, Max Blaylock.
And this is my husband, Carl Pfeiffer. This is my husband, David Allen.
This is my husband, Bob, and I think that's the first thing that he said to Dr. White is, I finally get my wife back.
Look forward 6 o'clock at night.
Thank you for sharing your significant others with us. Thank you.
Now, Dr. Connor with the Hoover City Schools Foundation will come forward.
I'm going to be joined by Janet Turner, who is our executive director. This year, the City School Foundation is sponsoring 3 grant programs. Tonight, we're recognizing the grant recipients for the first program, which is our traditional teacher program, which emphasizes classroom education. This past week, we introduced our second grant program, which will be ongoing this summer, which is the Seed Lab program, which will involve innovative education ideas into the classroom. And we have a third program planned that we will introduce in the fall that we're now formulating. The teacher grant program, as well as the other 2 grant programs, are funded through your grants as citizens, through your support of our fundraisers, through corporations, and through the gracious support of the Hoover City Council and the mayor. What I'd like to do is we're going to very quickly move through the awarding of certificates, and I'm going to ask you as I call the grant up, all teachers that happen to be here and administrators associated with that grant, please come forward and receive your certificate from Janet. You will notice that there's a large emphasis on reading and mathematics. This year, one of the major emphasis in the school system happens to be those 2 areas, trying to improve test scores. So the foundation is supporting that initiative by primarily emphasizing grants in those areas. So you'll see most of the grants are going to elementary schools. From Glove Park, we have 3 grants that we're funding. Girls engaged in mathematics and science. Jerry Evans is the lead contact on this particular grant. Our second grant to Bluff Park also is titled Green Hour. Nancy McGowan is the lead teacher. Are you taking for okay? All right. For also traveling the world from the comfort of school with Amanda Walker is our lead teacher on this grant. For those of you that came in and picked up a copy of the sheet that has the grants on it, if you could follow along with me. If you miss getting a sheet, I suggest that as you leave, you pick one up so that you'll have that as part of your archive. We have 3 grants going to Gwynn Elementary School. The first is Communities, Families, Literacy Program. Katie Collins is leading this one. Katie had to be someplace else, and I don't know if you've got some other teachers who are good. Drumming Up Success with Dr. Enrica Farnham. She's not here, okay. Engage, Enhance, Extend, Leading Through Legos, Jill Foshie. We have 1 award to a high school, to Hoover High School, to Jennifer Van, Beads for Needs. Okay. Many of our teachers already had plans for vacation, so that's part of the problem tonight, getting them all together. For River Chase Elementary, there are 4 grants, and 2 teachers are dominating those 2 grants. LaRue Frederick, dashing through the curriculum and getting serious about circuits.
She emailed me about an hour ago.
Okay, all right, and then Dr. Alice Turney has 2 grants, Listening for Learning and Reading in Nature. Okay. For Trace Crossings, 3 grants, Growing Communications by Rebecca Crow as the lead teacher. STEAM Magigs, Amanda Stone, the lead teacher. And then Integrating Sensory Tools to Increase Student Success, Julie Smith, and she will also be working on this not only at Trace Crossings, but at Deer Valley. I want to thank each of these teachers for their and teams for submitting their proposals. What we normally do at this point is we invite them and any guests that they have to join us upstairs in the technology room, where we'll have some slight refreshments for you and a slight orientation. We won't take you long, but we want to give you a little input into what's going to be happening this summer in terms of what we're going on also next fall. So we'll invite you to, and we'll ask the board to please excuse us so you can get on with your business.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Dr. Connor, before everybody leaves, just want everyone to know what the Hoover School Foundation does. This is private funds going to help our schools. A lot of manpower put in just by some of the representatives you see here tonight. This is people out of goodness of their heart helping our teachers with supplies, children to advance in education. So this is not funded by us. This is all the volunteers and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Mr. Cooper, that concludes our recognitions.
Jason, thank you. Do we have any public participation? It's Samira. Action items. You have before you the minutes from the regular board meeting dated May 8th, the special call board meeting from May 23rd, board work session from May 26th, and a special call board meeting on May 30th. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, I recommend your approval of the special call board meetings and the regular meeting. It does not require your approval of the work session, but those notes are included for your review.
Do you have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes are approved and the notes are included, but not approved. Next item on the agenda would be the personnel actions. Dr. Murphy?
What you have before you, the personnel report, would point out to you and for our public that there are 30 appointments included here. 2 of those are new positions to a respective school. There are 13 transfers. There's 1 change of status, 3 requests for leave of absence, 18 resignations, 1 retirement, an individual with 25 years of service, a request for 1 supplement, 1 principal contract is included for your review, and 1 recommendation for termination. Request your approval of the personnel report.
You've had this personnel report to review. Do you have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? I have a motion and a second to approve the personnel report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The personnel report is approved. Next item on our agenda would be the business action. Dr. Murphy?
Before sharing that with you, I want to make note of information that Tina Hancock has shared with me regarding our 2017 budget edits. As you'll recall, in March, we asked for an amendment to our budget. There are 2 times during the year that we can come to you and ask for an amendment to our budget. One's usually in March and the other's in June. And we did an amendment in March. Once we submitted that to the state, there have been some edits that have occurred, and so this does not require your approval, but I wanted to make you aware of the edits. And the specific edit that we have here is that we've included the additional money that we've received from our city. That was not in the original budget. We didn't know of that amount at the time. So we have now received an additional $2.5 million from our city. We have now considered that an edit to our budget. And as a result of that, we now present to you a balanced budget with a remaining positive balance we anticipate to be $1.3 million. We've come a long way, baby, in terms of the fact that in years past we've submitted some seriously significant deficit budgets, and those would come in somewhere around $10 million to more spent than brought to the table. And so I'm very pleased to share this with you, and very grateful to Tina Hancock for her work. So that's an edit, doesn't require your approval, just your attention to that. I do also want to share with you and ask for your approval the monthly financial statements. This includes the summary financial statements, the general purpose financial statements for the month ended April the 30th. When we look at April 2017, 75% of our budget revenue has been received. That's a result of most of our ad valorem property taxes have already been received at this point in time. The variance compared to the prior year for revenue is up $7.1 million. Again, very good news for us. This variance is due in measure to increased tax receipts, the additional allocation that we received from our city, interest on investments that we've made, and also additional foundation funding from the state. The operations represents 7 of our 12 months of activity. Approximately 58% of our budget would be anticipated at this point in time. And when we look at the expenditures compared this time to last year this time, we have spent $1.4 million less in a comparable time frame. And that's due to reductions in supplies, utilities, travel, and also some general repairs. And also in our special revenue fund expenditures, we spent $695,000 less than this time last year compared to that budget. Again, in great measure, material supplies, repairs, and equipment. So pleased to share with you and to ask your approval of that financial statement, along with cash disbursements for April 2017, $2,996,789, and also our payroll for May of 2017, $7,367,470.48. I request your approval of all three of those business action items.
Thank you. Do I have a recommendation to approve the business action?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Yeah,
Any questions?
I do. Ms. Hancock, Board of Equalization sending out appraisals for this year. Do we track that ahead of the collections after the October 1 year? Do we have any ideas yet?
I have not received those. I've just received a card stating that they have done the evaluations, that we should be getting those. So yes, I will keep those on file and definitely look into that and see where we may be.
And that'll be important for us as we do our budget planning, obviously, to know what we might anticipate.
I can confirm personally that they are not going down. Any other questions? I got a quick comment. First, thank you to you, your staff, administrators, your teachers. Everybody feels that when you tighten things up and you do away with things that probably were a little bit excessive from time to time, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of belief in the system on the part of everybody who works here to make that happen. Now, I always take this opportunity when we talk about budget edits to say, the budget, unlike what most people like to think, is just a working document. You don't create a budget at the beginning of the year and expect it to be exactly the same by the end of the year. So these two edits that have come is important adjustment. But again, from my perspective, it's just a snapshot in time. To say that everything is great because we've got essentially a balanced budget or a little bit of an excess revenue, that's a lovely thing, and a great position to be in. But at the end of the day, it's a snapshot in time. And you know, if you look at, spend a lot of time looking at the windshield, that's what's in front of you, and not worry about what's behind you. You'll know that we've got some challenges coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a point well made. If I could just add to that, the savings that we've been able to demonstrate have been in some measure painful. And so I want to own that and say that that's been the case. Anytime you're reducing repairs or cutting back on personnel or whatever those financial savings, however they come to you, that's difficult. So I do want to say that while I'm very proud to say we're beginning to own every part and parcel and piece of this process, it has been difficult and it has impacted our school district. And we want to be thoughtful as we go forward. I don't believe there's a whole lot of fat to cut out of this school district. We've been very thoughtful through this process. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Did we already approve the business action? No. Can I get a motion to approve the business action? Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Business actions are approved. Next item on the agenda would be the bond resolution.
I'd like to recommend that you approve Progress Bank, a banking institution, to refund our Series 2005 bonds by refinancing these 2005 bonds. Will go from a 4.5% interest rate on those bonds to 2.31. I believe, Tina, that's a savings of about $1.17 million. And we have some important gurus sitting with us that you might have questions to pitch to them, but that is my recommendation to you.
A quick question. In reading in part the 28-page document relative to the bond issue, there's several references to a special tax and special warrant fund that's funded by the special tax. Is the special tax a tax that was passed years ago to fund the existing bond before this one takes place? Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I may not.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm Hayward Hush. It's been our pleasure and honor to be working with you all on the tax increases recently, and also as bond counsel for this. To answer your question, Mr. President, that's the 24 mil tax that is been pledged for your bond issues now for some years. It was pledged in 2005, 2010, 2012. So it's really just a continuation. And what we're doing really is just replacing with this issue the 2005 bonds that are now outstanding. They'll mature over 10 years. As Ms. Dr. Murphy has pointed out, the interest rate will drop to 2.31 fixed for the entire 10-year term, and it will have a savings of a little over $1 million. But it's that same 24 mil tax that you pledged all along, and you reserve the right to pledge it on a parity basis.
Thank you. That's almost a rhetorical question, but for the casual observer reading it, seeing a special tax, I don't want anybody to take from that inference that there's something new coming down the pipe.
Oh, no, sir. No, there's not. That's historical language.
Right.
I don't even see it.
Some
We've used it for so long. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the bondage?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a recommendation and a second. Any other questions or comments? Yes,
I'm sorry, Mr. President. One thing I meant to say is, I understand that the superintendent and the board's gonna be out of town the rest of the week, and if so, we're prepared to get signatures tonight, if everybody would be so kind to wait after the meeting. I have 2 pages, the entire board signs, and then I'll just need the officers, president, city secretary, and financial officer. Okay?
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? The bond resolution is approved. Next item on the agenda will be the obsolete items. Dr. Murphy?
Mr. Hoover and board, we have some devices, technology devices that are beyond economic repair that we wish to declare obsolete. I will also share with you that all of these items will be recycled. You have a document that indicates some Chromebooks. We have taken all the parts off those particular Chromebooks that we could use. We have some Apple iPads. The cost for those is greater to repair than the value. And some additional Chromebooks, Dell Chromebooks that have basically been destroyed, I'm sure unintentionally by students. Those students have actually paid for those, so that's not a cost loss to us. But all items that we could take off of those have been taken off. We will now recycle these parts, and there will be a small amount of money that will come to us as a result of that recycle, but nothing very consequential. It's my recommendation that you approve the obsolete items.
Do I have a motion to approve the obsolete items?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have any questions from the board?
I have one. Is Brian here? Who's answering on?
Brian is involved with the technology workshop, and I'll do the best I can.
Okay, we do require students when they're checked out to them to be accountable if they turn those in, right?
That's correct. Mhm.
Okay.
And they have an opportunity to buy insurance on those and or be responsible for those in the event of mistreatment of them or breakage.
It's happened in my house.
Surely not.
Any other questions, comments? Have a motion, second, all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? The obsolete items are approved. Next item on the agenda will be the 2017-2018 meal price increase. Dr. Murphy.
Board members, we're recommending that our school lunch meals increase 10 cents per meal for our students, and that the adult meals will increase to 20 cents per meal. This is to allow us to comply with the paid lunch equity calculation that's required by the United States Department of Agriculture, Section 205 of the Healthy, Hungry, Free Act of 2010. So our elementary lunches will now, for full paid students, go to $2.35. For secondary lunches will be $2.60. For our faculty and staff meals will be $3.20. This is nothing more than to bring us in compliance with exactly what we're directed to do to meet the calculation for reimbursement.
And breakfast?
And the breakfast, thank you. And the breakfast will remain the same at $1.50.
Okay, yeah.
My recommendation, you approve.
Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation on meal price increases?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any questions, comments?
Ms. Bonner's here.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Bonner. We've corresponded, where are we with, United States government on the block grant potential that they may impose, or the old administration's food that nobody liked to eat? Has any of that changed?
Yes, the new Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, made a proclamation on May 1st, and he is providing more flexibility on some of our meal pattern requirements, and this has been accepted very well with throughout the nation. And you'll be seeing some of those changes in our meals, and we are hoping to see more acceptance. The block grants, we've not heard any further news on that.
If I understand it correctly, a block grant is really not good for a district that's growing in population because it's set a certain amount of funds available, and if you continue to grow, then you just gotta divide up in smaller pieces. So we're opposed to block grants, more of I guess a daily measurement figure would be correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for corresponding with me too.
Well, how about participation rates?
We have lost participation, we're down to about 51%. And that was mainly due to some of the regulations on the meal pattern requirements and the acceptance. And so with these new flexibility guidelines, we're looking forward to presenting some better food.
I tell you what, the CNP workers do, I should be very careful about saying food people do not want to eat. That's not correct. It is delicious. But with the limits they have, maybe it'll get less.
Yes.
Who's always like carrots and broccoli? I'm just saying.
We do, Melinda does track our meals per labor hour. And unfortunately, when our students don't eat our meals, then our meals per labor hour increases, and the residual impact of that is that we lose personnel. So we track all of that.
Any other questions? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The use, 2017-2018 meal price increase is approved. Next item on the agenda would be use of facilities policy. Dr. Murphy.
Board members, we have a couple of things I want us to talk about tonight. One is the use of facilities policy, and you do have that included in your folder, I believe. 4.4.3 is the board policy specific to use of our facilities. And this particular policy is no more than taking a look at what's currently in our board's policy, but being a bit more intentional about the language of the use of our facilities being primarily an educational purpose. So you will see that document. Some of you are looking at the other piece of that information, which is going to be the pay schedule. So right now, this is the document that I'm looking at. It's the 4.4.3. This is the policy. And we shared this with you in a little bit of a different format last board meeting, but the content's the same. And I would like to ask your approval of this policy, 4.4.3, use of our board's facilities. And then we'll later, as a non-actionable item, talk about guidelines and procedures, which is the other content I think you have in your hand.
Do we have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of the use of facilities policy?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
When I looked through the guidelines and all, I never really saw cost figure. I don't know how that's calculated and if it's done at the school level by the principal. How does that unfold?
If we have a section to talk about that, we can pull it up front now and have that conversation if we want to, or it's a non-actionable item. I think we have it laid out fairly well. You want to talk about that now?
Yeah, I think it's helpful for everybody to know
All right,
that there's no free lunch anymore.
Right, so if you look at use under 7B, there's use of facilities fee schedule. And again, want to thank Michelle McKay and Tina Hancock for working with us on some guidelines and procedures for facility use. We are not prepared at this point to say that this is the final fee schedule. And the reason for that is that we have a principals meeting on June the 22nd. We wanted to get this in front of you this evening. We wanted to then take it to our principals on June the 22nd and let them also take a look at it. There are 3 pieces of information that you should have in your notebook. So you should have a little short slide presentation. You should also have a document that talks about camps, camp revenues, facility use fees. What we've provided for you are some of the more frequently occurring types of camps and what is the impact of what we're proposing and looking at right now on those particular sponsors. We have dance, we have art, we have math and coding and volleyball and football camps. And we've given you some examples of what those sponsors charge, what they actually make, and actually what we're going to charge them for the use of our facilities. And basically what you have is, this has been developed having in mind that we've got to be compliant with the guidelines for financial operations of school-related organizations, something from our State Department. We also have to be in compliance with financial procedures for local schools 2010, also a State Department document. We have to be in compliance with Alabama Department of Examiners for Public Accounts, their interpretations and their guidelines, and also AG opinions on use of facilities of schools, and also in being thoughtful about what does it cost us to run those or allow those buildings or those fields to be used and the utility cost. And that's how we came up with the facility use fee schedule. Again, this is a draft. We're not asking you to approve this, but so you actually have 3 documents. You have just a quick little PowerPoint piece. You have a, hey, what does that look like with the camps? What does the sponsor make? What does it cost them to use? And then the facility use fee schedule is also attached. This is for your information, for your review. We will share it with our principals. We want them to give us some feedback. We will come to you in July and say, hey, here's where we are. This can be an actionable item if you choose. It really is nothing more than a procedure and a guideline, which does not require your approval, but you certainly may wish to approve it. So this is more informational for you at this point about fee schedules. What we have on the table asking for an actionable item is, of course, the policy. Did I confuse it further?
No. I won't play gotcha. I just want to kind of some of this stuff out here. Where does after school care fit into that? Is that part of the use policy? Cost and all that kind of thing?
After school use extended program, after school care is really separate and apart from use of facilities. And you know, that is at a cost to the parents or guardians for their students to be involved. But no, that's outside of this particular policy.
And I gotta say, and the use of facilities by the city for rec league ball as an example.
Yeah, so you'll see a couple of when you look at the procedures. Let's see, where's the one that we gave to the board last board meeting? Here, I'll get that. I've shuffled too many papers. We can make sure that we send it back out to you, but this is the document, the guidelines and procedures for facility use. You had this document last month, and we talked about there being 3 parts to this: used by support or school-affiliated organizations, used by the city of Hoover, and also used by any other third parties. And so this is still in conversation and still under review. Had a conversation today with Alan Rice. We're continuing to talk about the city and the school district's relationship, what we use that's the city's, what the city's using that belongs to the school district, and how do we best work together for all parties. So, but we've been thoughtful about that in this document.
I ask these questions, even though they're rabbit trails to a certain extent on what needs to be passed here, because you guys have done some great work. And you know, it's not as simple as one might think in terms of use of facilities, because there's so many different entities wanting to use it, one being the city for rec league ball, you know, as an example. So do you treat them differently? So getting it out there and getting something that's absolutely
Well, and for example, the complexity is some of the organizations that want to use our facility are for profit, some are nonprofit, some of our organizations, PTOs and PTAs. And so some of them, like PTOs and PTAs, have their books included with our books. One school doesn't. So how do you address a PTO that's their books are considered a part of ours versus their books aren't considered? It really gets very complex. And Michelle and Tina, how much time have we spent, or how much time have you spent with this? It's been significant. So I think what people want to know is, what does this look like, and does this make sense? And we've tried to get this to make sense, and we've tried to lay it out in such a way. We've even looked at things like a percentage of whatever that revenue might be that the fundraiser created. But then you hate to come in behind your PTOs and PTAs and say, I want 10% of whatever you just raised. So it's all just been a process of not only money, but our philosophy as to what we believe about our organizations and how we should treat them.
Mr. President, can I say, sure? For being on the park board 8 years, there was very good communication, trading off with the Board of Education when I was on the park board, and vice versa. It got much better as it went along. And a lot of things the city does, and it may be, for example, we had 80 high school baseball teams in town this last week. I don't know how many of y'all realize that, but every city field that was available was used. Our facilities were used. Our two ADs were part of it at the high schools, and any except for the not custodian, but we have to have employees on site.
Site supervisor.
Site supervisors have to be paid and required to be on site, but that money, the superintendent allowed that to take place because it was good of the community. The funds went right back into the Plain Park Jag Baseball Club, Hoover Bucks Baseball Club. So it was a community event. Without the city and the Board of Education, you wouldn't have had 80 teams in town playing baseball this last weekend. So there's a lot of things like that that go on. It's very good communication, teamwork with our city and the Board of Education. So we continue to work hard to do that.
Thank you. Good work. Any other questions, comments? They've got a motion and a second. All in favor of the use of facility, approving the use of facilities policy, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Use of facility policy is approved. Next on the agenda will be the job descriptions for parts associate and transportation shop assistant.
I want to acknowledge Jeremy Bradford. Jeremy's here somewhere. Jeremy has done terrific work in taking a look at what are the positions that the State Department of Education will reimburse us for. And there are a number of positions in transportation that the state will reimburse us for, which we don't have. So you can get extra hands and boots on the field and have the state, well, not the city too, have the state offset those, and yet we've not taken advantage of those. And I just need to acknowledge Jeremy and the work that he's done. And so, board members, you're going to see us bringing some job descriptions to you, and you're going to go, well, what are you doing? You're adding jobs and you're creating job descriptions. Well, yes, we are, but these are all positions that we can be paid to have by the state. So, Jeremy, we can add how many additional positions and save how much money by taking advantage of what the state will reimburse us? Am I putting you on the spot?
Well, ma'am,
No.
we can add about 5 extra positions, and we will save approximately $40,000 a year for our current model.
So you get additional folks, additional support, take advantage of what the state will reimburse you, and come out $40,000 less, and that's good work. And so I'm proud of Jeremy and his department. So before you tonight, board, I have 2 job descriptions, parts associate and also transportation shop assistant. We'd like to get those job descriptions approved so that we can get those folks in place and start to take advantage of that extra support and savings to the school district.
Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of the job description for both parts associate and the transportation shop assistant?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? This is approved.
Thank you, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the suitable famous code of conduct. Dr. Murray.
We have before you requesting your approval this evening, the 2017-18 Code of Student Conduct. Dr. Simmons has done an awesome job of reading and rereading and editing and tweaking and meeting with principals and having other stakeholders at the table to talk about this code of conduct. I just think it gets a little better every year. We get more thoughtful as time progresses, and every time we read it, we see something else, and there's always a new wrinkle because things happen you didn't see coming. But I do present to you this evening a request for this code of conduct to be approved.
Thank you for letting us have this for the last probably 3 months or so to review. I know there've been some comments coming and going on it. And words with, it's, you know, you have to have a big hand in this as well because things are changing legally. So it's a very complex thing that needs to be updated quite often, it seems like. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of the code of conduct?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions from the board? Any no questions, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Code of conduct is approved.
Very good, thank you.
Dr. Murphy, would you please now give us the new business superintendent's report? Anything else you got?
Board members, just for your information, you have a legal update, and I would remind you that, you know, that this is a confidential document that gives you legal information as to where we are, some updates on some matters. I'd also like to note that there is a way for our parents to make sure that their children can take advantage of free summer meals. And so I wanted to share this publicly so that our public is aware of this. It's a new service that's been created by No Kid Hungry. And the parent simply has to text food, FOOD, to 877-877 and find the location of the closest neighborhood program where free meals can be provided to their children. And we'll post this, Jason, if you would, let's post this on our website. Certainly we can help our communities, not only our English-speaking families, but we also have the directions to support our other languages. And so we just want to make sure that anyone in our community that wants their children to take advantage of those meals can do so. Board members also want to make you aware that we have some preliminary design concepts. As you know, we've talked about, so what now? Is there a new Hoover school on the horizon? And if so, is that a high school? And if so, is that a magnet concept school? Is that a full-blown high school? Is there an extension to Hoover High? You know, the kinds of conversations that we've been having. And so you have some information contained in your folder from Goodwin Mills and Cadewood. These are just some preliminary designs, nothing that we're prepared to release publicly at this point. Just certainly want to disclose to the document to you and to say to our public that we're continuing to study and continuing to work and try to come up with solutions for what we know the rezoning impact will be and what we also know the impact of some annexation and some expansions in our city might be for us. So I share that document with you. You also have in your notebook or in your folder some information about the foundation program. And I think that this is important because it allows you to see the fiscal 2018 foundation program specific to Hoover City Schools. How much money do we get for assistant principals or counselors or for technology or for library enhancement? So that document is provided for your review. You also have the breakdown by school. What is the average daily membership of those schools? And based on that average daily membership, what is the calculation for each of those schools for principals and teachers and counselors and librarians? So you have all of that information that's also attached for your review. And then you have the State Department of Education's fiscal 2018 budget information. And so just three quick, not too complex documents that give you a little bit of heads up about our school district and our access to the FY 2018 State Department money. I also wanted to talk just a minute about the Hoover Met Sportsplex, as we've had a lot of conversations about the Alabama power lines. I wanted to just bring this back to your attention and make you aware that the Alabama Power has accepted the fact that they're not going to be able to bring power lines through our parcel of property, but rather the property line that now exists between the city and the school district. So that parcel of land will not be interrupted with power lines going through it. I would also like to clarify that if you visualize the property line, 15 feet on either side of that property line is the 30-foot easement that we've had a great deal of conversation about. And to add to that 15-foot easement on either side of the property line, there is an additional relocation of a 10-foot clause in that lease that says that if you visualize the property line, 15 feet on our side is a part of that lease of Alabama Power, but Alabama Power could have an additional 10 feet. Now, what Alabama Power, I think, would say to us is that would only occur if y'all came in and asked to put a public road through there and we needed 10 feet to move power lines. So this doesn't seem to be one of those where Alabama Power just has free reins of 10 feet. It would be much more associated with a request or a need for a road that might go through there, which we don't anticipate to happen, certainly not anytime soon. But that would be a clause that would exist for purposes of relocating those power lines to get them off of a road if need be. So what Alabama Power actually has is a 50-foot easement. 30, 15 either side of the center line or property line, and an additional 10 to either side of that. So 25 feet of our property and 25 feet into the city side of that property. And so I wanted to share that with you. Mr. Cooper, I think you had a question about the communication lines maybe being connected.
Yeah, well, communication lines that are prescribed in the easement is just a change in policy through the years because communication lines become very valuable. You can use existing rights to the way they're in place, but you don't have to acquire any additional land. I'll say this about the additional 10-foot easement on each side of the center line, which makes for a 50-foot easement. So that is actually the easement equivalent for a transmission line. So yes, you may want to put a road down through there, but it's conceivable that they want to do a double circuit, put a transmission line down there. So make no mistake that provision is for convenience of the power company at some point in the future. Chances of it being utilized probably slim, but it's not for our benefit necessarily.
That's more just informational to bring you back into that. Bring you back into that loop. Let's see. I've also shared with you our interest in the lease agreement with Artist on the Bluff. Whit and I continue to work on that. We will, I had hoped perhaps we might bring that this evening, but we have chosen instead to do that in July, very hopeful in July, that we will either bring you a lease agreement that we enter into possibly with the city of Hoover, should they be so inclined, or a lease agreement with the Artist on the Bluff. But clearly, I think we mutually agree that there needs to be something in writing, there needs to be a lease agreement, and I think all parties see that, and hopefully that'll be on the table for us in July. We've already talked about the use of facilities and certainly can talk about that more with time. Jeremy Bradford and his department have put together a transportation department handbook, and AEA Ray Sanders has taken a review of this document and has no objections. Matter of fact, I believe he may have had some suggestions which we edited and included. And HR Maryville has also read this. This is just simply to let our transportation personnel just know expectations and know some procedures. And I think this is important to we had one, but we had to get the dust off of it and edit it and clean it back up. So I, again, appreciate Jeremy for doing that. Doesn't require your approval, it's just more to keep you posted on our work. And then I will ask you at the July board meeting to approve the Alabama non-traditional high school diploma option. This is something that is state mandated, state required, so it's one of those things that we'll need to do to be in compliance. The State Board of Education approved the Alabama non-traditional high school diploma option in July of 2016 and have directed all school boards to create a policy specific to the non-traditional high school. There are a couple of options that the state allows under this non-traditional high school diploma, and we've shared those in a document with you. You'll have some information that you can review between now and our July board meeting. We'll answer your questions. Please feel free to share those with us. But we do need to have a policy in place. Melissa McKee, again with Witt's firm, has reviewed this policy, as has Dr. Dotson, and we're comfortable with this document. We'll ask your approval in July. And that concludes the superintendent and reports.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. If there are no additional questions or comments, the dates of our next board meeting will be July 11th, 5:30 here in the central office.
Change to Tuesday evenings from
Tuesday.
Monday evenings.
Good point. Tuesday, not Monday. Anything else? The meeting is adjourned.
Yes, yes.
Thanks,